friends. Hi, I am Leighellen, and this is Mama Leighlen's Book Nook. Thanks for joining me again this week. I am here to talk about the books that came out this week and share with you my thoughts on a few of them. So, today we're going to talk about this big old stack along with some of my audiobooks that I read. So, I will share all of those with you and tell me below if you've read any of these and what you thought about them, or share a book that you have read this week. I'd love to hear from you. So, let's get started, shall we? First up, Committed. This is a memoir of Susan Scanlon, and this is a book about mental health rep. So basically what happened was back in the 90s when she was in college, after her mom's death, she tried to commit suicide. And they put her in an institution. And so she was institutionalized for 3 years. So think about all that she went through in 3 years. A lot of treatments, a lot of experiments, probably a lot of therapy. So she shares her struggles. Now, what I appreciated about this book was that it is more than just her time there. She also shares her grief about losing her mother and what was all involved in that, and what it was like to be institutionalized also. But then she also goes into her love of books. So being bookish people, I feel like we all can appreciate that and love that part of it. The other thing I liked was just how she brings up her favorite authors and how throughout history, there's been these amazing women who have tried to elevate women's voices and how important that is, just in understanding how women operate and are a little different. And so overall, I really enjoyed this. I will say that as far as writing style goes, it was a little loosey-goosey in spots, and she does kind of bounce around timelines. So if that drives you crazy, it is not, linear, then that will bug you. But, it's a memoir and it's very thoughtful. If you have anyone in your life that is experiencing mental health issues, I think this is also a great book. If you are just a feminist and love women's stories, this, you'll like this. And then just as a book lover, I really love how she elevates women in history. So this is Susan Scanlon. Also, I probably need to say all of these things ahead of time. I feel like YouTube is different than Bookstagram. At Bookstagram, I usually put my tags at the end. I'm supposed to say everything ahead of time. So thank you to all of these publishers and authors who have sent me these books. And in this video, it includes Random House, Gallery Books, Head of Zeus, HarperCollins. Who is this one? Vintage, Penguin Random House, PRH Audio, Libro, and Simon Audio. There we go. Hopefully I got everyone covered. Okay, so that was this one. So these were all published this week, so I don't need to give you pub dates because it was April 16th, which was just a couple days ago. I tried to get this up on Tuesday, and it just never happens. So I digress. All right, another book that came out this week that I have already read is Lost to Dune Road. Now, this is a thriller. I put it mystery. I'm going to call it a mystery. So you have this woman who used to be a journalist, and now she's a private investigator. Come to find out, hi dog, I'm doing a live, go away. So come to find out she isn't a journalist anymore because of something that she uncovered. She ended up losing her job. So in this new role as a PI, a mother has hired her whose daughter is in, oh my gosh, my dog is going to be so annoying. I'm so sorry. She has hired, oh my gosh, stop. I'm so sorry. This mother has hired her to investigate her daughter. Her daughter is in a coma. And as this investigator starts looking into it, she realizes that there might be a link between this crime and the crime that is the one that had her lose her journalist job. So awesome premise. To be honest, I thought I was going to love this book, and it started off really good. It's really about, abuse of power, because you've got corruption in the government, you've got corruption in the police force, there's scandal. But for me, I felt like the pacing was maybe off. There was a lot of characters to keep track of and just kind of a lot going on. So I ended up, I gave it 3 stars. Also, all the trigger warnings. I don't like saying trigger warnings because sometimes it's also a spoiler. But so just know that, use your imagination to think of what happens when rich, powerful men use young women, and then you'll figure out some of the trigger warnings. Okay, so Lost to Dune Road. I think there will definitely be an audience for this that will love it. I didn't. I didn't. I'm just being honest. Okay, next up is an audiobook. So since I can't this is a live, so I can't just go, oh, point there and then have it magically appear like it does when you actually record your videos ahead of time. So I'm just going to show you the cover. So which one did I say this was? Did I ever tell you? Sorry, dog, you're being annoying. No. Hi, I love you, but I'm not giving you your toy back because it is very loud. Okay, so did I ever tell you this is what it looks like? Can you see that? Yes, you can. Genevieve Kingston. So this is another memoir, you guys. I have a bunch of nonfiction in this deck, which is really rare for me. I don't know what happened. It's just how these things came about in the pub date. So this I feel like is a must read. I loved this book. First of all, audiobooks with memoirs I love because you hear the person and they're basically just telling their story and you just feel like you get to know them. It also was super short. So even though it says 7 hours, I read everything at 2.5 speed. So it was 3 hours for me. So I banged it out in a day. I bawled my eyes out. So have your hankies ready when you read this one. So let me tell you what it's about instead of just raving about it randomly like a crazy person. It is the story of this woman whose mother dies when she is young. And when the mother is still alive and finds out that she has cancer, she decides to write all of these notes to her daughter and has all these gifts to go with them. So what ends up happening is throughout her life, through every major event, like birthdays, but you think of big events, like your sweet 16, like getting your first driver's license, going to college, graduating, getting engaged, getting married, having your first child. Her mother had a note and a gift for every event. So even though her mother's not with her anymore, she's with her whole life. And so it was a stunning look at grief and life and love and family. And so obviously, it's heartbreaking. Her mother dies. You know this going in. That's not a spoiler. But it is also just very hopeful and just about the power of love and how someone's love can just permeate so much of you even long after they're gone. And then the importance of memories, how important it is to keep someone's memory alive with you after they're gone. So I loved this one. I hope you do too. It was fantastic. I got this through, I should have written it down. Okay, this was from Simon Audio and Libro FM. So I'm sure you can find it anywhere that audiobooks are sold, but they sent that to me. So thank you, Maggie. No, my dog says hi. The next one I want to talk about is also an audiobook, totally different. So this is Knife. This is the other audiobook that came out this week that I finished early, and it's Salman Rushdie's book. And what you will need to know is it's nonfiction, but it is about it's based on the attack that happened. He was attacked at a book conference. He was literally advocating for safety of authors' safety. And he was attacked, stabbed 15 times. So I went into this thinking it was going to be about that event. And it is, but it isn't. It's really interesting. He refuses to use the person's name. He calls them A for, a-hole, which I thought was hilarious. He's kind of snarky and witty. But yes, it chronicles this brutal attack, but it's really a lovely story. I know that sounds weird to say he was attacked and stabbed and it's a lovely story, but because it's all about healing and the power of art to heal and the power of words and writing to heal. And so it is beautifully written. His writing is stunning and he's just very thoughtful. And then also I just like how, you can tell he's older and looking back at his life. So it just felt very wistful. And again, ends on a hopeful note. Like, these horrible things happen, but I'm not going to stop my life because of these horrible things. I'm going to find the good in the world and focus on that and move forward. And he focuses on the importance of telling our stories. So tell your story, share your story, because that can help someone else. So I loved it. It was fabulous. I highly recommend it. Next up is The Evolution of Annabel Craig. Now, this one was a shocker for me. I did not expect to like this one as much as I did, and I loved it. This came to me from Random House, Lisa Grunwald. It is historical fiction. Now, historical fiction is my jam, so it's my sweet spot. But a lot of times, it can be repetitive, or the story is similar, or it's a time zone that you already know about. Time frame. This one was really cool. 1920s. So first of all, a great era that isn't written about much. But it focused on one particular area. So it takes place in Tennessee, and it focuses on this trial called the Scopes trial. And so what that is back in the day, the state sued a teacher who started to teach about evolution. So what is really interesting is that this story is told, like, it tells that story, but it's told through Annabelle's story. And so Annabel is married to a person who works on the defense team. And so it's felt very much like a adult coming of age as she kind of like grapples with what this means, because her and her husband are opposing views and opposing sides. And so for me, I just felt like it was such a timely book, because how often in our world right now do we have these kind of like go to your corners? This is what I believe, and this is what I believe. And so therefore we cannot talk. Well, she's married to this man, so she can't just not talk to him. They have to find a way to communicate. So it's really about learning how to communicate with someone that has a different viewpoint. It's about learning to listen. It's a timely tale of growing in what you believe. And, she has to wrestle with her beliefs. And I think that's really important to do. I think it's always important to like question what you know and why, and adjust as needed, and stand firm where needed. And so I think a lot of people will really enjoy the story. It's a history that maybe you don't know about, and the way that it is told is just very relatable. And I think there's a lot of great life lessons in this one. So I really like this one. Mags, give me 5 more minutes, sweet girl, and then I will take you somewhere. Okay, next up, another nonfiction. You guys are like, all you read is nonfiction, but it's not. Go watch my other videos. I never read it. I don't say never. I always read nonfiction, but like usually one a week, not 5. Okay, Everest Inc. You may have seen a lot about this because it's kind of been a popular book lately because of, the Netflix shows and some movies that are dedicated to this. But this is about climbing Everest, and this man writes like a full history of it. And it is, I feel like I need to be honest and say, like, I'm conflicted about this one because I love nature. I'm a little hippy dippy trippy when it comes to nature. I'm a little tree hugger. And there's always that tension of like enjoying nature, but not abusing nature, right? Like, I love to ski. And so I'm thankful we have our ski towns and our ski lifts, but like when it gets overcrowded, is that like good for the mountain? And so this is right. Like, he explores the boom of this whole $1 million industry that is guided tours on Everest. And is that good? Is it bad? That's a whole nother story, but he gives you that whole history. So for me, I think, towards the end, I feel like he like gets it, like where he starts sharing about the Sherpas, because really, if you've ever climbed Everest or know anyone who has, like, you can't do it without a guide. And it's really the Sherpas who make it happen. And so now there's like this pivotal movement where their stories and their businesses are being elevated. So for me, I would have loved it if he had like co-written or, you know, co-authored with a Sherpa, or highlighted their businesses more. Like, it is a section, but I personally would have liked more about that and more elevating their stories, because really the Sherpas, like, they're the future of Everest, and they hopefully will lead going forward. And there are businesses now that are run by them. and they're the ones that make these missions possible. So that's my only critique. But I think a lot of people won't care and just really like this book because it reads like a Netflix movie. I mean, what these people go through is crazy. And I think that they will love all these stories and they will enjoy this book. And if you are an adventure reader, nonfiction person, you will enjoy that one. Where are we at? The Scandalous Life of Ruby Devereaux. Okay, this one, I can't really show you the real cover because I got such an early arc. Oh, wait, there might be a picture. Oh, there is. Okay, this is what the actual cover looks like. See that? This one snuck up on me. I'm gonna say I did not necessarily think I would love this one. This is listed as historical fiction on Goodreads, but I would say this is women's fiction. It felt like women's fiction. So it follows this 90-year-old woman who has been a writer her whole life, and her publisher comes to her and says, "We want you to tell your story now. So give us, your crazy history." And so she does. She gets this assistant and decides to tell her story. So it's really the historical part of it is that, she's lived a long life. So like you think about all of the things she has seen from like the 1940s on. So like the Cold War, Vietnam, civil rights movement, women voting, like it just how much has changed in her lifetime, which is amazing. And then if you follow me at all, I'm a sucker for octogenarians. I love old people in books, and she is like salty and sassy and feisty, and I loved her. So that was fun for me. And I think, you see this big push on Bookstagram for The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. If you follow me at all, I hate that book. So many people love that book, but I did not like that book. So I felt like this was like almost what I wanted Evelyn to be, but this was really fun. She tells her tale and tells it honestly at a time when, women weren't like this. And so I think you will see the comparisons in this book, but not. So yeah, women's fiction about this old lady in her life told throughout history. So very fun. I enjoyed it. Ruby was a hoot. Total hoot. She is a salty little octogenarian that I loved. Why do I feel like I'm out of books? Oh, because the next one I think is an audiobook again. It is. Okay. The next book that I read that came out this week. It's another one I didn't love. Sorry. Okay. To Gaze Upon Wicked God. Can you see that? To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods. This is a YA book with a stunning cover. Like I kind of wish I had the hard copy, to be honest. I was so excited to read this, you guys. I love YA fantasy. I especially try to ensure I'm reading diverse authors in this genre because there just aren't a ton of them. I really loved Poppy Wars, one of my favorite series ever, but that is very adult and very like graphic. Six Crimson Cranes was another series that I loved that is more YA. And so I was very much looking forward to this book because of the Asian influence and an own voice author. So here's what you will get. It is inspired by Chinese myth, which is very cool and immersive throughout the book. You have a magical system versus a technologically based system. That's really all I can tell you because, to be honest, one of my biggest gripes with this book is the lack of world building. Like, I know that in her world there is magic, and I know that the colonizers come from some magic portal up above, but like I don't really know anything about them and their why and what it's like where they live. So it is YA. I also feel like the romance gets a little icky. It was billed as like enemies to lovers, but it's more like colonizer slave. So I didn't like kind of the gaslighting and just the way he treats her. That's never been a thing that I've enjoyed. Like icky as in like toxic icky, like Stockholm syndrome icky. So I just couldn't get on board with that. So for me, this was I may have given it 3 stars because I liked the idea of the story. So, if those things don't bother you, you might really enjoy this story. And it is nice to have yet another fresh voice. Now, I think this might be her debut, so maybe it gets better from here. And this is just a great start. Um, but yeah, I mean, 3 stars from me overall for that one. Um, Next up, The Royal Librarian. Back to historical fiction. So, guess what? Librarian, history. Did I like it? Of course I did. This is kind of a classic, easy breezy historical fiction. I would say like historical fiction light. It was very classic. You've got the dual point of view, you've got a dual timeline. There's like World War II and Philadelphia. And basically what happens is this woman in Philadelphia is going through her grandmother's things and finds a passport that shows she was not actually born in America. So she's like, wait, what? Grandma wasn't born in America? And starts looking into it and finds out she's from Austria. And so she dives into the details of her family tree. Then the other story that's in history is a woman who is a spy in the Royal Library. So eventually these two not opposite, but two stories that are different come together and it all makes sense. So I felt like it was really enjoyable. Did I learn a crazy ton? Maybe not, but not all historic fiction is quite like that. But this was very enjoyable. And I love a book with a librarian. Extra star just for that. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I gave it 4 stars. It looks like I'm out of books, but I know I have one more, so that must mean it's another audio. Let's see, what was it? What was it, Leighellen? Oh, yeah. Welcome Home, Caroline Kline. So this would be, I would call this one women's fiction. And the idea behind the story is kind of that classic going home story. So she's a hot mess. She's recently broken up with, lost her job. Her dad ends up in an accident. Her mom calls and says, come home. So she goes back home. So it's one of those like adult coming of age about hot mess Harriet trying to figure her sheet out. Um, and what happens is she goes home and her dad asks her to take his place on his softball team. So I played softball with my own dad back in the day. So I loved that part of the story. I'm a huge baseball, softball fan. So if you're a sports fan, you might really enjoy this. I loved that aspect of the story. I didn't necessarily love her. She is a hot mess and makes some very questionable decisions in this book. Like, she gets a DUI and ends up like in an addiction center, but I know that happens. So if that's a trigger for you, just know that's in there. But I felt like it had really good rep. It had good addiction rep. It had good Jewish rep. And at the end of the day, it's really a feel good novel about the power of family and having family support. It's really about, you know, finding yourself, growing up, figuring out what you want, and going after it. So I enjoyed it. There you go, friends. So those are 10 books that came out this week that you can look out for and add to your TBR. Let me know below if any of them sound interesting to you and why, or if you picked up something else this week, because it's not like I review all 50 books that came out this week. I just do the ones that are sent to me. There's also a link somewhere in there where you can order them through bookshop.org, which supports your local bookstore. So that's it, friends. Until next week. Actually, I might be on sooner. So this week is Readers Take Denver, and I live in Denver. So I'm about to head to the Gaylord and meet some bookstagrammers and some authors and chat about books for the next 4 days. So there might be some fun videos I post in here. You can also follow along on Instagram at Momma Leighellen's Book Nook for more. All right, friends, until next time, have a great week and keep on reading.